It's Wednesday, July 29th, and this is now on HNN.
This is something we're taking extremely seriously.
Hawaii sees its first triple-digit spike in new coronavirus cases, as some say the planned expansion of a mask mandate is government overreach.
Well, if you're outside and you're sweating and you have a mask on, you actually can't breathe, so that's not really feasible.
Federal officials warn more states could see a surge in coronavirus cases. I'm Danya Backus with what officials are urging states to do to stay out of the red zone.
Having to shrink the company that our team has worked so painstakingly to build is heartbreaking.
After a dismal earnings report, Hawaiian Airlines is expected to move ahead with layoffs. The details coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon, thank you for watching This Is Now. I'm Jonathan, your director, alongside Ashley here. We begin today with another huge spike in coronavirus cases for the state.
Hey everyone, health officials are reporting 109 new COVID-19 cases today. 98 patients are on Oahu, 9 are on Maui, and 2 are on Kauai. But DOH says it was anticipating the spike because labs were closed Sunday and Monday because of Hurricane Douglas. Officials say close to 5,200 tests were processed between yesterday and today. Normally 1,000 to 2,000 are processed each day. State Health Director Bruce Anderson says there has been a surge in cases since the 4th of July weekend, and they've been seeing more gatherings and less people wearing face coverings and practicing social distancing. Meanwhile, Governor Ige is expected to make a decision on Mayor Caldwell's request for more restrictions sometime today. The mayor wants masks to be worn even while exercising outdoors.
Mask wearing outside, everywhere, inside everywhere, outside everywhere. But I see the Little League playing, and all the spectators are not wearing face coverings. No one, zero. We're going to be requiring that the players and all spectators wear face coverings, as opposed to just shutting down the sports. If it interferes with your jogging or it interferes with playing a sport, because this is going to apply to people playing, Little League baseball, playing basketball, then you either need to slow down your activity or stop doing it.
The mayor is aiming to shut down all Oahu bars for 3 weeks. Caldwell also wants to limit gatherings to 10 or fewer in most places. It would not apply to churches, theaters, or restaurants. But he does say he wants to crack down on parties and gatherings at beaches.
It looks like 4th of July every weekend. There's gatherings of 100 and more in our parks with no face coverings. Reduce this to 10 or less again. 10 or less again. You could have a pod of 10, they may not be family units, but we're asking those who are families, don't have to wear face coverings if you're a unit, but if you're in a pod of 10, wear your face coverings at all times.
Meanwhile, some are calling all of this government overreach.
That is not in your jurisdiction to make, Mayor, and I understand that there are desires to go and try and take care of this COVID spike that's happening, but we need to remember where it started from. We have mad resources going into tracking and looking at tourists or visitors to Hawaii who are breaking quarantines.
The state is not only seeing a huge surge in cases, but there's also a big jump in the number of patients that need hospitalization. We got an update from Queens Medical Center this morning on Sunrise.
Hawaii is seeing a surge in hospitalizations because of the coronavirus. Dr. Rick Bruno is the Vice President of Patient Care at the Queens Health Systems, and we wanted to ask him to join us this morning and see what the surge has been like at the Queens Medical Center, because we spoke with the Lieutenant Governor yesterday, who said there were some 24 coronavirus patients there.
We have seen an increase in patients with COVID-19 who required hospitalization over the past 5 days. This is something we're taking extremely seriously. It's an increase that happened over the weekend. It's something that we at this point have capacity both in our ICUs and on our medical surge floors, and are ensuring that we're able to provide high quality care for all of these patients.
When we talk about the number of these patients, a couple dozen, is that well within your capacity? And then at what point do you start to say 50, 60, 70, you're just at capacity for the Queens Medical Center?
It's a very good question. So we have a surge plan related to COVID-19 that over the last 4 months that we've put in place. And at this point, we have adequate ICU capacity. We have contingency plans to have expanded care areas, to open up other care areas, and clearly in partnership with the state and local government to ensure that we can care for all of these patients. At this point, we are under normal hospital operations with our highest priority is safety of all of our patients, all of our staff. And we will monitor this situation daily. We have meetings to go over exactly what is the census in the hospital.
Doctor, I guess my question is, how sick are these patients? I'm sure it's not across the board. And then also, as time goes by, are you starting to see younger patients who have coronavirus?
COVID-19 is a disease that what we know about it is we've learned in the last 6 months. And it's a disease that, unfortunately, many patients have succumbed to. So it's a very serious illness. We see everything from mild illness that can go home to patients who require ICU stays, being put on a ventilator. So it's the full range that we see in our emergency department. Folks, again, who can go home to folks who require very long hospital stays.
For this particular surge, though, are you seeing a majority of patients who are on ventilators, or are they not showing as many symptoms?
The data so far, and again, we're in the middle of this disease, everything we know, we've learned in the last since January, is it seems like the acuity is consistent with what we saw in March. I do believe that there are younger patients who have gotten the disease, many that we probably don't see in the emergency department. And this is related to what's going on in the community, people going back out, people going to bars, people not wearing masks in public. And so I do think that we are seeing a younger population, but the patients who are most affected with this, who become extremely ill, are those with comorbid conditions, those with diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease. And those are the patients that we are seeing who require hospitalizations. It's those who have other medical illnesses.
Hawaiian Airlines is losing some big money, and now it will have to reduce its number of employees. Howard Dykes has more on the cuts.
Hawaiian cut flights to the bone. It bought jet fuel cheap. It took $269 million from Washington, some of it loans, most outright aid, in return for no layoffs. And Hawaiian still lost $107 million. That was spring. Hawaiian made no predictions for summer. Good thing, because tourism is still basically shut off. CEO Peter Ingram warns of layoffs, saying there remains a high degree of uncertainty about the magnitude of demand recovery. The International Air Transport Association revises its forecast for a return to normality. It now predicts we won't see 2019 passenger volume again until 2024, way longer than it said before. Young Brother says it will reduce routes and cut jobs in 3 weeks unless state regulators grant that big rate hike. The barge line's Seattle parent stopped underwriting losses 8 weeks ago. Central Pacific Bank reports a $10 million spring profit, despite settling millions of dollars more aside as a provision for loan losses in the time of COVID. CPB made more than 7,000 paycheck protection loans.
Hawaiian Electric says customers will start to get disconnection notices September 1st. Late fees will be included starting September 15th. The company kept the lights on for customers who couldn't pay since March. HECO says customers may qualify for financial aid to pay the bills through federal funding. Customers are being asked to contact the utility to set up a payment plan. For more, head to hawaiianelectric.com/payment arrangement. On Kauai, the state land department says bad behavior is forcing them to close down Polihale State Park indefinitely. DLNR officials say more than 1,000 people camped at the state park on a recent weekend, but only 80 were legally permitted, and the department received numerous complaints about large gatherings and a lack of social distancing. They say trucks have also been racing through dunes with Hawaiian burial sites and endangered plants. The restrooms were also trashed. DLNR says the pandemic has made it difficult to enforce park rules, especially since Polihale is so isolated. New at noon, the big West conference announced today its decision to postpone fall sports until 2021, impacting multiple University of Hawaii sports, including women's volleyball. The decision means men's and women's cross country and women's soccer will also be affected. The fall competitive schedules for men's golf, men's tennis, and women's tennis will also be postponed. Nearly 150,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus, including nearly more than 1,200 reported to have died yesterday. Danya Bacchus reports.
Hospitalizations are starting to stabilize in Florida, but the statewide positivity rate is still over 10%. In Brevard County, Florida, nearly 300 Bayside High School graduates, including Jocelyn Puma, have been advised to quarantine after someone tested positive at a high school graduation Saturday.
I was extremely devastated. I brought my grandparents there. My mother was there.
Florida is one of 21 states the White House Coronavirus Task Force has designated as a red zone because of its high number of cases. The task force is warning 5 nearby states could be next.
We're talking about the states that are starting to see a little bit curve upward. They've really got to jump all over that, because if they don't, then you might see the surge that we saw in some of the other southern states.
The task force is recommending those states adapt measures, including universal mask wearing and shutting down one key business.
Close the bars. That's where a lot of the transmission takes place.
In Alabama, another red zone state, Pastor Ricky Williams says after a 64-person church service earlier this month, 20 members of his church tested positive, including him and his wife.
We sprayed everything down to the best of our abilities. We had some had wore a mask on the inside, yes, and we distanced.
And despite also being a red zone state,
Daddy's proud of you, okay?
Some schools are back in session in Mississippi. Students have to wear masks in the halls and follow social distancing rules. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
New today, Japan is reporting more than 1,200 cases. According to Japan's national broadcaster, NHK, it's the highest one-day count and the first time that number has surpassed 1,000. Japan is being considered as Hawaii's partner in the so-called travel bubble program. However, the state still has a 2-week mandatory quarantine for out-of-state passengers through September 1st. We've got some details we want to share about where a number of those new cases are popping up around the island. Here's Lacey Denise with more.
2 major companies on Oahu say several of their employees have tested positive for COVID-19. Results for 1 EV-Lay and 2 Hawaii Kai Costco employees came back positive. Costco says it has implemented extra cleaning measures and will be getting in touch with any close contacts. A part-time cashier has tested positive at the Pearl City Foodland. We're told that person last worked on Friday. Some employees have been asked to self-quarantine. The store is reopening today after a deep cleaning. And we've learned a City Department of Design and Construction employee tested positive on Thursday. That person was apparently last in contact with other staff on July 19th. The city says it is thoroughly cleaning the affected areas, and the state will reach out to anyone who had close contact. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
The primary election is a little more than a week away, and Honolulu has received close to 90,000 ballots by mail so far. Casey Lund has more information for those who can't vote by mail.
Honolulu Hale is one of 2 voter service centers here on Oahu, the other one at Kapolei Hale. And while it's a beautiful place to visit, really the benefit of a mail-in system, especially during a pandemic, is that you're limiting your interaction, you're limiting your exposure and your travel. Of course, the decision to move to an all mail-in system was made by the legislature well before the pandemic, but we're benefiting from that decision right now. I want to introduce Glenn Takahashi, city clerk for the city of Honolulu. Glenn, I want to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of this mail-in system. Aside from, even under normal circumstances, not in a pandemic, this should be easier for folks.
Right, it is a very easy system, and it's employed in other states across the country, as you know, Washington, Oregon. Voters have time to take a look at their ballot and consider their choices before returning it.
I want to talk about what people should have gotten in the mail already. Let's talk about this packet, of course, minus the actual ballot here. But you should have received some information about how to vote by mail, the security sleeve, which is important. And then I want to talk about this, Glenn, in this box right here and how crucial that is.
Right. So the vote by mail packet contains a postage-paid return envelope, and it does have a section where you need to sign off on an affirmation in order to vote by mail. So again, voters need to sign this in order for their ballot to be counted. So don't miss that.
And then really quickly, I also want to cover this because this is hugely important, especially for folks that may be procrastinating. How important is it to get this in the mail? It doesn't need to be postmarked by election day, right? It needs to probably give it 3 days at least. Right. If you do wait up until the last minute, what are some of your options?
Yeah, so again, we encourage voters to have a plan for returning their ballot if you're going to hold on to your ballot to the last moment, right? Drop it off at one of our places of deposit or our service center. Or if you're, returning your ballot maybe on a Wednesday, you still have time if you're mailing it from on Oahu back to us. So, but again, think about those things. If you're away at school on the mainland, it may take 5 days for the ballot to actually get to us. So have a plan for that.
Very good. Glenn Takahashi, City Clerk for Honolulu. I appreciate you being with us today. We want to put up a map really quickly and talk about those voting service centers throughout the state. There are 2 on Hawaii Island, 3 in Maui County on Lanai, Molokai, and Maui in Kahului. Here on Oahu, again, Kapolei and Honolulu Hale. And then on Kauai, Lihue. Those are your options. The times for those all across the state are from 8 to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday, all the way up till Election Day on August 8th, when they'll be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. For more information on the state's mail-by-voting system, you can go to elections.hawaii.gov. At Honolulu Hale, I'm Casey Lunn for This Is Now.
Thank you, Casey, very much. Hard to believe there's already an election in the works.
Next weekend.
I know. It's 83 degrees outside right now, folks, as we look at Aloha Tower. Here's Guy Hoggy with an updated forecast.
How's it on this Wednesday? I'm Guy Hoggy with your HawaiiNewsNow.com forecast. The breezy trade winds will slow down just a little bit today. They'll be especially windy from Maui all the way to Kauai. Of course, lighter winds over in Kona. And we'll see a few wind and Mauka showers this morning, but a drier air mass is moving in. We won't see as many showers as we saw yesterday, although tonight, look for an increase in those showers that will likely linger for those windward and Mauka areas for the next couple of days. So today's going to be a textbook trade wind weather day. Breezy trade winds, comfortable humidity levels, and those morning showers for windward sides. Leeward sides, though, we'll see lots of sunshine. That's why temperatures for a handful of spots approaching 90 degrees. Not a whole lot of surf to speak of. In fact, it's agonizingly small for most areas. 1 to 3 might be an optimistic outlook. It's going to be bigger on the east side. That's because of the trade wind swell. Douglas's swell is now gone. So we've got a nice run of trade wind weather. However, we will see a few more showers starting tonight, lingering around through Friday, mainly for those windward sides. Leeward sides will get the occasional spillover, and then a drier air mass moving in just in time for the weekend. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Let's see what the internet's talking about from the feeds time. What you got, Ash?
Now, this is just weird. So Crocs made limited edition Kentucky Fried Chicken clogs. They may look good enough to eat, but please don't do it. The sky-high platform bucket Crocs first debuted at New York Fashion Week in February. There was also a commercial for the shoes where it comes out of a sizzling deep fryer. Both the heeled Crocs and regular version have a fried chicken pattern and come with drumstick scented charms attached to the top. The platform Crocs aren't for sale, but the ground level ones are for $60. No word on whether the smell of chicken wears off after a few years.
Everyone knows you're a Crocs fan and you'll rock those.
Me?
Yeah, you know it.
Yes.
My dad honestly loves his Crocs, so I'm not going to knock him too much. All right, guys, really excited about this. Nerd alert, nerd alert. Tomorrow, NASA is expected to launch its new Mars rover. I had a chance to talk with a NASA official this morning about that. Here's the interview. Joining us now is Jim Morehard, NASA Deputy Administrator. Good morning, Jim. How's it going?
It's going great. It's a great honor to be with you. I really appreciate you having me on today.
And you were just telling me you're coming to us from Kennedy Space Center. It might not look like it with the virtual background there. Pretty exciting stuff coming your way, right?
Very exciting. We got a lot going on and more to come.
And so I didn't realize that NASA had actually been on Mars for so long until I did a little Googling yesterday. Since the 70s, right? So that was the first time we sort of launched out to Mars. What's so special about this mission?
You know, you think about it, we've had 4 rovers go to Mars. We've also had 3 pretty expensive craters trying to figure out how we get to Mars. But this mission is really a confluence of a lot of what we've already learned, but we've put it all together. And when I say that, we're going to be looking at what we call entry, descent, and landing. Because the hardest part is to get to land on Mars. And we've got a new system where we've mapped Mars. We have an orbiter around Mars that's been taking pictures for years. So as this mission comes down in the descent stage, it's going to be taking pictures and comparing it with the pictures we already have. All this is programmed into the rover. So it's going to know right away whether it's on course to have a safe landing. And that's going to be so important. You've got that. Then you've got, it's going to start taking samples of the Mars soil. And it's going to put it in test tubes, and we're going to collect the test tubes, and we're literally going to just deposit them on the surface of Mars. And we have got another mission called Mars Sample Return that will go down and pick them up, and we'll get those samples by 2031. So we really need to see what that soil structure is like. Can it handle the landers we're going to have that will have astronauts living there? And the weight will be in tons versus Mars Perseverance, which is really about the size of a mini car. It's about 10 by 9, about 7 feet tall. Still pretty big though for a rover.
So I was also reading up on two of the other side projects other than the sampling. Everyone's excited about the helicopter drone, right? And then there's an oxygen test too, right?
Yes. So let's hit the oxygen one first, because I know the helicopter is a big interest. So you think about trees. You think about in Hawaii all the beautiful vegetation, and it's sucking up carbon dioxide and creating oxygen. So we're going to artificially try to do that on Mars. The Martian atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, CO2. Carbon, 2 molecules of oxygen. We're going to borrow one of those molecules of oxygen and provide, hopefully, pure oxygen for our astronauts. So that's really what our intent is with that project. Now the helicopter. The helicopter came late in this project. And with that, they really didn't have any room for it. So they found that, we can put it on the belly of the rover. So that's what they've done. It's about 4 pounds. It's got 2 rotors. They're about 4 feet in length each. And it's got retractable gear, which is really 4 struts. So it's going to go up. Basically, the rover's going to deposit it. It's going to back off 50 to 100 meters. We've got we have 19 cameras on the rover itself. It's going to be taking pictures of this helicopter. We call it Ingenuity. And so we'll hopefully see it go up, but we'll also have cameras on the helicopter. So we're going to get a much better perspective of what it's like to be flying around Mars if we can do it. Remember though, the density of Mars in the atmosphere is 1% of the Earth's. So this thing's going to really have to spin hard to be able to do it.
Boom, mind blown, right? And I think that's all going to go down. When I looked up earlier, it's about 4 a.m. our time. Okay. So it'll be on CNN for sure.
Hopefully everything goes well.
Yep, that's going to do it for This Is Now. We have so many press conferences to get to. Monitor your HNN digital feeds for alerts on that. Have a good day, everyone.